Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose, where we talk to amazing women, all different varieties, right? Doing different things, but really the one thing they have in common is they are using their story to build a mission and take their purpose farther out into the world. And today's guest is no exception. I'm super pleased to have Lana McAra, and Lana is an award-winning international best-selling author and ghostwriter for more than 50 books with over 1 million copies sold. And she is the founder of Vendella Publishing. She works with writers who want to build long-term careers and reach readers beyond the algorithm. Lana has spent more than 2 decades teaching fiction writing and speaking to writers about the business of publishing. And I also want to add, because this intrigues me, and I love this idea of online businesses and businesses in general, especially for women, right? Is collaboration. Because on the outside, you might look and see that we're doing similar things, and we really are, in the sense we're in the same kind of space. And yet we're collaborating, sharing ideas, and helping our readers and our authors get the kind of service they want, right? So I really love that and appreciate that about you, Lana. This idea of really empowering more people to be authors, however it works for them.
Yeah. I struggled so much at the beginning. It took me 14 years to get my first book published. And then I won a national award a few years later. And once I did win that award, I mean, people were coming out of the woodwork, asking me, contacting me, calling me, emailing me. Oh my gosh, it was overwhelming. And yet, in every voice, I heard myself those years before and the struggle I had. And so I determined I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find a way to help people who are feeling that same pain, that same compulsion to keep going, but the pain of not being able to figure it out is real.
Right. And yeah, usually I start with story, and you kind of alluded to that, really, my own struggle, right, to figure out publishing. And while I think things have changed and there's more accessibility, it's still a big hurdle for a lot of people. And where do you even start, right?
Right. So what I'm talking about is between 1990 and the early 2000s, and there was nothing in those days unless you lived near a university or something where you could go to class. I mean, we had nothing. My thing was I took two correspondence courses, but nobody was really giving me personal feedback.
Mhm.
And so when I would submit books to a publishers, because I was submitting to publishers for 14 years, I would get these forms and there would be a checkbox. Your dialogue is stilted. I'm like, okay, now what?
Can you send me a vowel?
Exactly. Yeah, it was beyond frustrating. And eventually I broke through and got published. And then I was also looking at what did I do? How did I make that shift to get published? Because there was no Amazon. Today, everybody can just throw their book on Amazon, but we didn't have that choice. We had to raise our hand and beg and plead and pray that somebody would say yes. And today it's different, but I see a shift in the industry because Amazon's been around for a while now. And I see authors now, their frustration is, well, my book is out, but nobody knows about it. It's lost in a sea of 1 million or 2 million books that come out every year. And how do I stand out? How do I find readers? That's the question for today.
Sure, exactly. And I know you also work on that end of it and kind of have developed a solution for that as well.
Yes, and that was incremental. The place I am today was not part of a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. It was just breadcrumbs. I went to this and then I went to that. And so I started off with just publishing through my publishing company. But then in 2009, I got a divorce and my writing muse completely left me. I couldn't write. I couldn't even write a letter. I couldn't write anything. And for about 5 years, I kind of bounced around trying to figure it out. And then I met someone who is a book broker who connects people with ghostwriters. And she said to me, I need ghostwriters. And we were in a conversation that wasn't even pertaining to ghostwriters. And she didn't know about my books. By that point, I'd written 28 books and she had no idea. And when she said that to me, I was like, whoa, I bet I could do it. I bet I could do ghostwriting. So I started ghostwriting and I went full time. I've written 22 books as a ghostwriter up to now. And that put me in a different place because now I'm working with authors who are struggling and they're facing this algorithm, and the algorithm changes, and social media, and then social media changes, and it's just so frustrating. So in 2021 or 2022, shortly post COVID, I got 10 of my titles back. Because of being traditionally published, all my titles belong to the publisher. And when they were no longer, quote unquote, in print, the publisher wouldn't release the rights because they said, oh, they're still out in ebook form. So therefore, they're still in print and we aren't going to give you. They held my books for 10 years, 10 years of limbo. And nobody was buying the ebooks, but they just didn't want to turn them loose, right? So they gave me back 10 of my titles. And I mean, that was a universe because I actually had contacted a lawyer to go after them. And I mean, it was just like divine guidance. All of a sudden I get an email, here's your 10 titles, like, wow. But then I didn't know what to do with them because I didn't want to get lost in that big sea of other writers. I mean, there's so many people out there hawking their books, and some of them have loud voices and they know more about social media than I do, or maybe they have more resources to hire big companies, to represent them. And I didn't have that. And so that caused me to sit back and think. I held on to those books for 2 years because I was trying to find a better way than what I had been seeing up to then.
Sure, absolutely. And maybe you could talk a little bit about, because I think there's a lot of confusion, right? We still, it's interesting. I think the book industry, I don't know, it's great marketing on their part, right? Because they created this engine and people still feel like that's the way it's supposed to work, is I find a publisher, I get published, they take care of everything. I don't have to market. And I don't honestly know if it was ever like that, but it was way more like that back in the day. And I think that has shifted. Can you explain to people a little bit about the difference and where you come into that?
Well, that's such a great question. I love questions about the publishing models that are out there because there's so much mythology about it. And I actually believe that, just like romance on TV or in the movies is not accurate, the same way that book publishing on TV is not accurate, because on TV you have this big publisher who gives this author this multi-million-dollar contract, and then the publisher will actually come to his house and sit there with him and help him work through the book and be there for weeks. And then when it's time for the book to come out, they'll have a publicist that goes with them everywhere to help them with their massive book signings, and people are lined up out the door. I mean, what?
In our dreams, right?
My gosh, you're going to be throwing that book. We used to call it over the transom, where you send it in the mail, but now you're going to submit it, online or through an agent or however it gets there, and they're going to make their assessment. And then if you get a contract, you may or may not get an advance. Sometimes they ask you for money. And then when the book comes out, there's nothing. They don't do any, they put it in their catalog. It's on their website. That's about it. That's all you got. And they might hand you a marketing plan, but oftentimes they don't. And you're on your own. You are totally on your own. Now, that's traditional. And the hybrids do it the same. Hybrid is where you pay $6,000, $10,000, $15,000 for this company to publish your book. And they do the same thing. Okay, here's your book. We're done. Have a nice life. And they do nothing for marketing. And my books were big sellers. I had a series that sold 250,000 copies. That was because my publisher had a deal with the vendor, I guess you'd call them, the bookstore vendor that stocked Walmart stores. And so that vendor made a deal with my publisher, and they stocked this one volume series in Walmart. This is back when Walmart had a big book section. They don't anymore. But when the book sold out, they would replenish, and they just kept stocking and stock because it was selling. And so it wasn't just the deal. Okay. The book had to be attractive. And that book was in Walmart for 15 months. It never went out of print in Walmart. And by the end of that time, it sold 250,000 copies global. I had people calling me. My relative, he was traveling overseas. He went into a local Walmart. He called me up and said, your book's in this Walmart over here. It was amazing. So it was a combination of those two things. That synchronicity, the universe, and we're talking back early 2000s. Amazon wasn't a thing back then. But today, it just isn't feasible. I mean, it's just not going to happen. The publishers have very limited resources. The truth about traditional publishing is that it is not lucrative. They lose money all the time. And what they do is they will contract a certain number of titles that year. They look at it in years. And so say they're doing 50 titles this year. They know that those 50 titles are going to cost them X amount of money. And so they're looking for a handful of celebrities. And they want the book deals with these big names that they know immediately will move lots and lots of books. And so they're going to pay their bills off the celebrities, and everybody else is left to fend for themselves. What you would call mid-list are authors, which I would fall into that category, that I've had good sales in the past, and I do know how to write. So that's mid-listers. Mid-listers get nothing. They don't get any more than anybody else because the A-listers are the ones that get all the cash. And I really ran into this, and this is me kind of getting on my soapbox a little bit. I had a book signing at Barnes & Noble, and this Barnes & Noble was in a mall. And I had come, through a rainy, damp, and cold day. It was miserable outside. And I had driven about an hour to get there. Well, they set me up in the front of the store with a table and a chair and some of my books on the table. And it was at the mall entrance, and people were walking far around me. I mean, they were taking a long way in, trying to stay away from me. It was so frustrating because I'm not a pushy, hard sell person. And if I would say, hello, how are you doing? They would just like, oh, you spoke to me kind of a thing. But as I was standing there for that very painful 2 hours, I was looking around, and there was this one title, and I don't remember what the title was. I'm actually glad I don't remember. But it was a hardcover fiction book by a well-known author, and I remember it had a green cover. And it was pretty big. It was a pretty sizable book. They had stacks of books, that title, behind the register, 2 or 3 feet high. No kidding. One stack after the other. So behind the register, this entire counter back there was covered with this one title. And then there were stacks of books in the middle of the store, 4 feet tall, at different places, the same title. There must have been at least 100, 200 copies of this one book in this Barnes & Noble store.
Wow.
And here's what I knew, because I'd been in the industry by that point, 15 years, 20 years. Bestseller lists are judged by orders, not sales. So when a publishing company or whoever it is can influence these bookstores to order so many copies of these books, they push these certain authors into that bestseller status. And then in 6 weeks, that bookstore will box up all the books that are left and send them back, and they will be remaindered. And that author's sales do not reflect the amount of credit they're getting because of a game that people are playing. And so, I got very discouraged at that point because I saw my chances of getting ahead not very good. But not only that, yesterday I had a call with someone. He came to me with a book, not this particular one, but with a previous book. And he said that he wanted my help with it. But he had just signed with a big hybrid company in New York City. And he said, but it's fine. I made the appointment, but now I just got this contract with this hybrid company. And it was expensive. I mean,
Mm.
you're not going to get a hybrid company in New York City for less than $10,000, $20,000. And I just talked to him yesterday. He came back to me with a second book and he wants my help to develop it and edit and so forth. And so he said, "Well, I know I don't want to go back with that company, but this time I want to get an agent and a traditional publisher." And I was like, my gosh, because I'm telling him this whole time, these publishers don't market. They don't market. But he still hasn't got it, in his mind. He still has his mind like, well, I just need to get a traditional this time.
Right.
And then they will do that marketing. But that is not how it works. So I covered traditional and hybrids in this long story. And then there are assisted self-publishing companies that will work with you and help you get your book edited, and they'll help you get the cover done and the interior design, all of that. They'll load it up to Amazon, Ingram Spark, wherever you want. And they might even help you with a little bit of marketing, but it's still self-publishing. And so you have the challenge of going into bookstores and libraries, and they're going to want to know, are you an indie author or do you have a publisher? And although your book may be out there, it's very challenging. And I feel so bad because bookstores are shooing authors out the door. Quality, worthy, hardworking, good hearted authors are being just shooed away, shoo, 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 go away, don't bother us today, kind of thing. And it is so sad to me to see that going on, but that's what's going on. So we need some creativity. Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Right. Solve that little publishing problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate you talking about that because I see that too. People saying, "Oh, I'm going to start sending this out to a publisher." And there seems to be no amount of words or none that I can come up with that can convince people that's probably not the best or most productive way to go, right? So yeah, it's definitely an issue. And then the marketing, you and I had talked about that too, because I feel very strongly as well. That's kind of the help I got. Oh, do this. Like, I'm 99% sure that's not going to work. So how do we figure out something different?
Yes, exactly. Notice part of my story that I would just want to highlight real quickly. They held on to my 10 titles.
Right.
They owned them. I did not own them. That's one of the big problems with traditional. They take your rights and they are very slow to give them back. So, yeah, that is all the case. So there's a couple answers that you can do. One of them is to start your own marketing process where you identify selling points in your book. Now I'm talking about fiction and nonfiction. How can I get myself out there as an expert in this or that and sell something, and then bring the book along? Bring the book along with whatever else you're doing and create a business plan, because I see myself as an entrepreneur. I don't see myself as just an author, because every book is a business. It's all in how we handle it. Do we want to be a career person, or do we want to be a one off? I wrote this book, and just have the book to stand at a table and sell just the book, because it is a mindset that we deal with. Am I a career author or a hobby author? But using the model that I have a lot to offer, and it could be I'm a great book critiquer, I'm a great editor or whatever, and start selling your services and helping other authors. I started out doing that too, because I love authors. I love authors. And so that was one thing, to do that. And then when I got my 10 titles back, I did some research. I found out what's the criteria for being considered a traditional. Now, most people don't even know what the rules are. I went into Ingram, not Ingram Spark, Ingram, the big company that is the global distributor for everyone, and looked at their criteria. Who gets to sign up as an Ingram publisher provider. And I got their criteria. I have it right now. And that became my business plan. And so, believe it or not, in the criteria, it does not say that the publisher can't charge. I've had people challenge me on that. Traditional publishers don't charge. Yes, they do sometimes. They do it by requiring a certain number of books bought. They do it in other ways. And there's a big publisher that I publish with that is actually a hybrid, but they are considered traditional and they get all the accolades of traditional because they give an advance. They write a check to the author, but hey, they're charging that person $8,000 to publish their book.
Right.
So the charging part is muddy ground, but yet I've had people challenge me about, well, you have to be a vanity press. Oh, I hate that word, vanity press. You have to be a vanity press. Now, back in the day, I don't know what it is now, but back in the day, a vanity press was where someone would take their book to a print shop and commission this book to be printed at the print shop. No distribution at all. And you just went and collected your boxes, put them in the trunk of your car, and took them home. And if you wanted to get them into bookstores, you had to take a box to the bookstore and have them, put them out on consignment or something. So, oh my gosh.
Right? Yeah. I know people, hand to God, who still follow sort of that model. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all the more power to you, man, because wow.
Yeah, oh, it's so much work. And I met someone at one of the writers' conference. I was speaking at this writers' conference, and someone came up to me and said, I printed my own book. I got 5,000 copies in my basement. And I'm like, what? Because the idea of having that many books stacked somewhere on my property, I mean, that to me is a nightmare. Yeah, so this is the model. You ready for me to tell you the model I came up with?
Lay it on us.
Okay. Well, this took me months to pull together because I'd been in this industry for so long. I've worked with traditionals, I've worked with hybrids, and I've worked with authors for all these years, and I know what I wanted. So, first of all, everyone in the company is a female author. We love authors. We are authors. And so what I put out to my community, I need a bookkeeper, I need an administrative assistant, I need some project managers. I went through the whole list. And what do you know? All these authors came out. They had jobs. Who would have known? They had careers, and they were so happy to jump in with us. And we've got an amazing team of people who are invested in this and invested in our authors. And so that was the first thing, author owned and operated. And then I wanted the authors to keep all their money. I would get 10% royalties, and my book sales were big, but I made so little money on them because 10%, and you're talking about a book that's selling for maybe back in those days $8,
right?
But that is the net amount. That is what the bookstores charge, but what the publisher actually gets is only maybe $5. So I get 10% of $5, 50 cents a book, 50 cents. That's all I was making. So when you see these big sales figures, you think, oh, I'm living on a mansion on a hill. No, I wasn't. They were hitting me with holdbacks for returns, 35% for returns was taken off of that. I mean, it was so pitiful that I just got so discouraged every time a royalty statement would come out, even though I had good sales. So I want the authors to keep all their money, and I want the authors to keep all their rights. Nobody is ever going to hold rights on people who come in with our company. We're not going to do that thing again. And I just had a friend who wanted to pull her book from a hybrid company. And this is what they said. You're going to pay $400 to cover our office cost. And then you're going to pay for all the books that might be in a bookstore somewhere that may be returned, another $400. So she has to pay $800 to get her own property back.
Wow.
No, we are absolutely not going to do that. So you get to keep all your royalties and all your rights. And then, yes, we do have to charge because we have production costs and we're not getting any money from you from sales. So we have a setup where we have a deposit of $2,000. Did you get that? $2,000. And then that will get your book up there in all the places. And we will have a 1 year, and I call it a guided year. a guided year of coaching, networking, training for you getting your book out there. Every Monday night, we meet with our authors. We do training that is how to do a book launch, how to set up presentations, and so forth. And then we also have hot seats where the author comes in and we just brainstorm with them and help them. We have Q&A calls where people can come with all the questions because questions will happen. And we have guest speakers. So every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we're on a call. Everybody shows up. We have got a great group of people and they're all excited and they're all joyful. And it's such a difference from being around authors who are just like, oh, I went to a book signing. I didn't sell any books. That kind of talk. It's not like that.
Right.
So yes, we do that training. It's a guided year, and that guided year is $137 a month.
Yeah.
The amount of coaching and personal attention that you get is well in the $10,000 to $20,000 range if you hired a PR company and coaches to do all that we do, because that's not all. We are calling bookstores and libraries and saying, this is Vendella Publishing. We've got an author in your area. Do you do book events? And we are breaking the ice because we don't want our authors walking into a bookstore and having somebody say, shoo, 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 go out the door, because we are the publisher and they will listen to us.
Right.
And so that's included. That's not extra.
Yeah.
So as you can see, I'm excited because we've been our first anniversary is coming up, and on April 2026 is our first anniversary. We have 9 authors and 11 books in the pipeline. 5 of those books have already been published. We have 4 more coming out. Some of them within the next 30 days are coming out. So we have authors, we have books, we have, we're working. And so, yeah, it's amazing. So we don't require all the social media. I know social media has to be done. I'm not trashing social media, but I don't think it's a business plan. I've never sold many books on social media. It's more like a supplement to what you're doing otherwise.
Right.
Keeping in touch with your own contacts. But we don't require social media. We don't require a big mailing list. You don't have to have a nationwide platform where you're showing that you're a celebrity so we can get behind you. None of that. What we do want, though, we want a good book.
Sure.
We want a good book. So we do an extensive look at the books and we give feedback. We will give you a 15-page report on your book where we saw the things that were red flags that need to be fixed. We'll send you that. We'll give you advice. We have human editors who look at the material and will give you detailed emails about what you need to do. And then you can take it away. You can do whatever they suggest and bring it back. That is so different because hybrids and traditionals, you submit to them, one and done. You're never going to get their attention again. We will look again. We've got several books out there that are in editing phases of bringing them up to level because you don't know what you don't know. We don't want to throw away good authors just because they have a couple of holes in the book that need to be fixed. No, because we are professionals. We are all professionals and we respect each other. Wow, right. Isn't that huge?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of authors helping authors, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I know you have a gift for the audience, the novel notebook. Do you want to take a second and explain what that is?
Yeah, sure. On my website, lanamcara.com, if you just wait there like 10 seconds, you're going to get a pop-up, and it is for the novel notebook. Now, the novel notebook is something I created years ago because I was homeschooling my children when I was writing those books. I had to find some shortcuts. And so I created the novel notebook for myself. And when you get that, you will receive a PDF document as well as a video explaining it. And I'll go through one of my novel notebooks. And so what it is an organizational tool that will help you keep your character straight, help you keep your plot line straight. You'll track character development and settings. And I would hand draw the house and what was, the room layouts and all that, put that in there. So whenever I'm writing, I can just flip through the pages because it's a notebook. It's a 3-ring binder with paper in it, because when I'm working at my desk, I don't want to be pulling up other screens. That gets me so disoriented. I want to stay in the book, but I've got this over here and I'm flipping pages. What color was that guy's eyes again? Flip, flip, flip. There it is, ready to go again. And so that's what it is. It's to help you keep organized and write faster while writing better.
Yeah. Structure frees you.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Well, this has been delightful. I know we could go on, but you've pretty much solved the publishing abyss. We'll call it the abyss out there, and simplified it for folks. So thank you so much for joining our podcast and really educating, I think, listeners on something that's still like we're still a little bit confused about.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Thank you for being such a generous host. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a
Yeah.
joy and delight. So, and everybody else, be sure and subscribe because you don't want to miss more, not only entertaining here, educational as well. Conversations with women who are really being powerful on purpose.